Hey, Juliana. Thanks so much for giving me a chance to talk to you a little bit more about what I'm seeing in terms of how you're showing up on Google, how you're able to attract business online, and just for, letting me help you out here. Thanks so much for responding to me at, I think I remember, 10:30 p.m. On a Friday. So grateful for you responding to me and for even letting me know that you had a slot the next morning. I love businesses who are hungry to do a great job and who have a great level of service. So, I just want to kind of say thanks and let you give you some insights on what I'm seeing. Um, I've been doing this for a little while now, in terms of, helping companies build a presence online. And my whole focus is on just generating business, right? I don't care about branding. I don't care about a lot of things with my clients. The only thing I care about is, can we get this company to show up very high on Google's rankings so that they'll get a lot of the business, right? So I want to firstly just go into some things that I see that Bonamigo is doing well, and then I'll go from there into some things that I think that we can maybe improve on. And I'm just going to give you suggestions on what I would do for my own clients. Of course, we have a team of people doing this, and we do this for lots and lots of companies. But I'll just give you some advice, and I am 110% sure that if you follow the suggestions, you will see improved results in how your website is ranking on Google, how many leads are finding you, how many people are giving you a call. You will 110% see an improvement in that, right? And I'm very sure, because we've been doing this a while. So let's go into this, okay? So first things first, it's very good to see that you have a Google My Business account set up. You actually got into 5-star reviews. The first 5 reviews are the absolutely most important ones. If you have 5-star reviews in the first few, it's a very, very good sign. Google absolutely loves that, right? You have a logo here. I even went in and I saw you have some pictures, um, and you have pictures with, I believe it's either yourself or somebody who works on your business. So very good sign, right? The one thing I would say, and we'll talk about this a little bit when we get to that part of it, like is having an address. I know you do mobile dog grooming, but I do have an example where there's a mobile dog groomer, and there's a lot of benefit to having an address, and if your address is a little far from San Francisco, I always think that like try and focus on the place where a lot of the business is coming from. Um, and using a tool that I have, which it's not complicated. I'm able to figure out like where are most of the Google searches coming from for dog grooming, pet grooming, cat grooming services, and no surprise, it's coming from San Francisco, and it's coming from Oakland, right? The two biggest kind of cities in the Bay Area. So, but I'll go to that in a second. Again, I'm going to go through this in 4 parts. One is I want to talk about what you're already doing well. Secondly, I'm going to talk about some improvements on the website that I think you can do. Third thing I'm going to go into is how you can improve some backlinking and search engine optimization. And again, search engine optimization is just as simple as how do we get my website to rank as high on Google for the key search terms that people are searching for. And from what I'm gathering, I have already identified some of the highest volume key search terms. You're not ranking for all of them. For the ones you are ranking for, it's not that high, but it's an easily solvable problem, right? I just got back from Nashville with one of my clients who's in the concrete business, and I can show you some examples of what we did for his business there. And we only started working together like 2 months ago. So, and then the last thing I want to go into is how to do some Google My Business optimization. I see a lot of potential here, and so we'll get to that as well. All right. So it's going to be a lot, and I hope you can keep a notepad available. So some of the things that I see you're doing well is phone numbers right at the top. It's a great sign. I can see that like you have a lot of pictures, which is good. More pictures is always good. I love this. It's super important for you to have like custom pictures that only you took, right? So if I try and do like save image here, I can see that like, it's not some like generic thing. We'll talk about this like this term here and how a lot of your pictures have something generic like this and how that can actually hurt your Google rankings, but we'll get to that in a second. But it's super good to see like something very custom like this. Love the grooming van. It's awesome. And then this is really good. Like you are showing very clearly, here's a service area. So when customers need to understand, can they serve me or not, they have a very clear idea of it, right? Hours, very good. Like your hours and availability super broad, which is awesome. I would recommend you remove this down here because it's just a link that goes probably to some random place. Obviously this isn't, this isn't your website, so you don't want this over here. And also, so definitely try and get that removed because it's going to confuse Google, right? And then another thing which is really encouraging is you have a lot of pages. More pages is just like more storefronts because you have more entry points for people to find you on Google. So if somebody searches like VIP dog grooming service, this page might pop up, right? Because Google understands that this page is something about VIP dog grooming services. And then if like somebody's searching about cat grooming, then the cat grooming page might pop up. If somebody searches something as specific as skunk off, then that page will pop up, right? So it's really, really good to have these many pages, right? The more pages you have, the better. And you have a lot, and that's a great sign, right? And also one other thing is the way you put the content on your website. I did a word count, and you have about 500 to 600 words on your main page, and your other service pages have on average about like 400 words. That's really good. A lot of very lazy business owners, they have maybe like 100 words at most. I've seen some businesses with 50 to 60 words. And with that few words, Google cannot understand what your web page is about, right? Google's kind of smart in that it actually looks at the words on your website to figure out what is this website about. And then if it can't understand it, it doesn't rank it. Right? In your case, you're giving Google something to understand what this website is about. I kind of ran all these words on the first page through a tool. You can change the content here to signal to Google, hey, like, give me more credit or put my rankings a little higher for these key search terms. You can kind of cooperate with Google that way. There's a tool I use, which is my favorite. It's called Surfer SEO. And basically, it tells you for the content you have on your website, here's what you're ranking for, right? And again, it's a very new tool, and you should maybe recommend the person who does your SEO to use it, right? And if they don't know how to use it, I can tell you how to go about it. Awesome. So let's go into some improvements I see that I can advise you on, right? Let's start with the website. So starting with the website, one of the things I'd recommend is to kind of fix this video. Again, the way Google likes to interpret or digest these websites is very standard, right? And if they see things that don't make sense to them or that's kind of getting in the way of their many kind of robots crawling your site to understand what it's about, it gets kind of bothered, and it actually hurts your site. So videos like this that show up at random places should be removed because that's distracting for Google, right? This big logo, I would actually recommend you put it up on the top left, and I would actually recommend you make these larger. You should also, because I've seen you on text and you're absolutely fantastic in terms of your text-based communication, better than 95% of businesses I've seen. So you should actually put something here saying text us and put that number right there, right? I believe this is the number you actually replied to me from. So people love texting, especially, the Bay Area, we're all techie. So people love texting, and it'll also make your business more approachable than others, right? So definitely you should try and do that. There's also title keywords on the website for indexing. I've seen this trend across our entire website where the main keyword of your website should be focused on something that people are really searching for, right? I'll go into this in a little more detail in a little bit, but something that I want to show you is using this tool called Ahrefs. This is basically a tool which is the mastermind of understanding what are people searching for on Google, how hard is it to rank for that keyword on Google. So for example, if somebody searches for mobile pet grooming San Francisco, this tool understands that there are about 30 people who search for that keyword every month. It's 14 out of 100 difficulty to rank for that keyword. My expertise is that anything above a 10 it takes a little time. There's nothing that is impossible to rank for, but it just takes a little bit of time and patience, right? So ideally, and I've done a few of these searches, obviously. Yeah, you can see that I've used up some of my searches for the week, but something that I would highly recommend is actually matching page titles on your website with some of these key search terms. Pet grooming San Francisco, cat grooming San Francisco, dog grooming San Francisco. I know you've indexed a little bit on Bay Area, but I think I have this example here where people are just not searching for cat grooming Bay Area, dog grooming Bay Area. You can see people are searching, or there's only about 10 searches a month coming from anything to do with the words grooming Bay Area or even groomer Bay Area, right? Like if you combine all of them, it's less than 50 searches per month. So, but if you just look at the one key search term for pet grooming San Francisco, there's 150 searches happening every month for that. My general rule of thumb is about 70% of those searches will actually be interested in doing business with someone. So ideally, you want to get like as many of those searches as you can onto your website. And obviously, I can advise you on how. All right, so that's something that I'd recommend just overall, which is go to some of your pages, revisit them, actually look at the top keywords. So for example, this is a good page where the top keyword here will confuse Google a little bit, right? Because you have, which is okay to have, right? That's fine. Here, I would actually suggest you remove your company's name from here because it's already in your URL, right? Have it somewhere else on the website. That's totally fine. But one of the things here is this is about dog bath services, but Google is going to get confused because it's seeing this, it's seeing the word dogs love it, it's seeing bath, blow dry, nails trimming, complete brush. So Google is actually getting a little confused on what this is about. Whereas top mobile pet grooming bath services, that is more of a major keyword, or dog bath services, that should be a little bit higher here, right? And you should ideally put all the major locations that you serve on every page, right? This is okay, but you should actually have a list of all the places in the Bay Area that you serve, especially all the highest population places like Berkeley, Oakland, San Francisco, San Mateo, Pleasanton, all these places. Whatever places you serve, you should have the actual names of those locations on every single page of your website so that Google actually recognizes that you provide those services to all those areas. Saying SF Bay Area is not good enough because Google is smart, but it's not that smart, where it'll understand like, oh, Bay Area means, Berkeley, Oakland, blah, 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 right? So that's, again, another one of my recommendations here. Another recommendation is like to actually take all the service pages and lump them under one menu, right? So why do we want to do this? It's because what you have here is, it's okay, but usually what I would recommend for the structure of these websites is have a home, have an about, have a services, where once you hover over the services, the menu drops down for dog bath, pet grooming, cat grooming, blah, 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 right? The more service pages you have, the better. Then you should have blog, which is good. And then lastly, you should have content, right? Here's an example of a website we've recently built for a client. It's in the concrete space, which, every lead in concrete is potentially worth like some projects are, $10,000, $20,000, right? Which is why we have to take it really seriously. Not to say that your business isn't like big, like your volume is higher, which actually makes it more competitive. So it's actually more important in your case. But this is an example of a place where as soon as you hover around the services, you see all these different kinds of services over here. And then on the main page, you actually go down and you see concrete driveways. Big description to help Google understand what it is that you're talking about. Stamped concrete. Big description to help Google understand what you're talking about. And then this links to the relevant page. This links to the relevant page. So we've made it super easy and structured, nice and organized so that Google understands what is this page about. And they're being able to see that these are the sub-services that we offer. So this website already ranks really well on Google. And we've only had it up for 2 months or something, and it's already getting calls for our client. But you can see how like this is the most recommended structure. So we have an expert blog where we've actually provided the content writers to write all this content because we know what ranks really well on Google. So the company themselves doesn't have to actually write this content. Obviously, like we'll open this up a little bit. And yeah, so that's an example of this, right? Another one of the things that I noticed on your website is that it's only a little mobile friendly. So if you actually go, so I have an iPhone 8 Plus, and if I go to your website, the images and the text actually overlap in a way where I cannot see your phone number. So that's not a good sign because I believe the statistic is that about 60% of searchers today in the Bay Area, it's probably closer to 75%, are searching on mobile, right? So you want your website to be mobile friendly. It's a little mobile friendly, where when I do this, stuff moves around, but you can see how things are getting hidden already. So that is getting hidden. You can see how there's some odd, strange overlapping things happening here. You can see how, again, the phone number has disappeared. And this is about the width of like, an iPhone. The phone number disappeared from here, and I have to scroll all the way down here to see the phone number, right? So these are just very simple things that like you can change. And again, like this random button here, it's just floating around. You can see like if I hover over some things, let me try doing this. Yeah, you see like as I'm kind of moving my cursor around, you'll see something pop up from behind the picture. That's where the phone number is kind of gotten hidden, right? And that's, somebody should definitely take a look at that. Great. So another thing that I would recommend is YouTube content. So you can make like a super simple YouTube video of like you actually grooming and like giving the dogs a bath, do some before and after videos, like and show how happy the dogs are. And actually link that on your website, right? Like, so another example here is we actually made a super simple video for concrete contractors. We made a YouTube profile for this company, National Concrete Experts, and we actually put the video on here, right? And why does that make a difference? It's because you're trying to rank on Google. YouTube is owned by Google, and Google wants to see you use as much content and as much of their websites as possible, right? So that actually helps with the ranking really well. So it's definitely something that you should try exploring, all right? And then let's actually go to the call to actions again, right? Like over here, you should add some like kind of interesting call to action too, where something cool like with one of the other clients I have, like this is based on an idea that they came up with that worked super well. They're in another city, so and I can't mention exactly who that is, but it's not a mobile dog groomer, it's an actual like in-person dog groomer, where they said text us pictures of your pooch to get a first-time discount. So that's really fun, and so it encourages dog owners to actually send a picture of the dog. You can start to have a conversation with them over text. You ask a couple questions of what were you interested in doing for your dog? I'd love to have them here. I love dogs who are like, a Vizsla or a Weimaraner or like, a Bernese Mountain Dog. You can say all those things and you can have a conversation with the owner and say, we'd love to have them. And, you can just get the conversation going. And when you show a lot of love and affection towards your customers, which I'm super certain you're doing, but when you can do that over text message, they will pick you even if you're more expensive than everybody else, right? So it'll add to your bottom line. Another thing I would recommend is all these random links at the bottom. So I checked all these links. It just links to Facebook's homepage, Google's homepage, LinkedIn's homepage, and YouTube's homepage. I would suggest remove all of those. Why? It's because Google doesn't actually like random links at the bottom, which lead to like generic sites. It actually gets very confused. So I would actually recommend getting rid of those and not having them there. All right. Okay, so let me just go through my checklist and see which ones I've covered. Sorry, just give me a second. I'm just gonna pause the video. Sorry, give me a quick sec. All right, so those are my quick recommendations on the website. All right, now I'm going to move on to the second bucket of things or the third bucket of things that I wanted to cover, which is backlinking and search engine optimization. Okay, so from what I'm seeing on your website, there hasn't been done sufficient expert backlinking and search engine optimization. And the thing is that, SEO companies do this very often where they'll take on a client, but then because clients don't understand the specifics of search engine optimization and ranking on Google, you're not able to hold them accountable, which is why they can do all sorts of random things and just kind of, not pay attention to things, right? So the first key point of backlinking and search engine optimization is to understand what are people searching for, right? So I'm already giving you some keywords, which is, pet grooming San Francisco, cat grooming, dog grooming San Francisco. You can see groomer San Francisco actually doesn't have a lot of keywords. So, if we go here, dog groomer Oakland, California, dog groomer Oakland, we can see, dog grooming Oakland, pet grooming Oakland, cat grooming Oakland, very good search volume, right? Dog grooming Oakland has 200 searches every single month. That's absolutely bonkers, right? Almost 300 if you combine dog grooming Oakland, dog grooming Oakland, California. That's super, super high, right? And then if you look at Fremont also, I don't know if you serve Fremont, but there's a good number of searches coming from there. So what I'm basically trying to tell you is these are the search terms that need to show up in your website's content, right? In order to do SEO, one of the major things that we always recommend is tweaking the content of the website. So over here, the problem on the website is that there's bits and pieces of content randomly showing up sporadically on the website, which makes it a little difficult for Google to actually go through and digest that content. Whereas if you remember the Nashville website that I showed you, it's a very clean layout, right? So that's actually what I'd recommend. This website looks like somebody had designed it a little while ago, or they've used kind of a very simple website builder to do. What I would recommend is a website builder called snaps.ai. It's very search engine optimization friendly. That's the one that we recommend, and we've tried a lot of them. That's the one that always works very well. All right. So over here, I looked at the content on this page. It shows up at about 600 words. What I would recommend in competitive niches like yours, in my expertise, you need about 1,500 words at the least on your main page. And on every other page, you need at least 600 words. And the words on your page should be customized where these key search terms that I showed you using Ahrefs, those key search terms show up a lot on your page, right? And so you have some decent content, but I think you can do a hell of a lot better. And again, all that I'm trying to do is if I search for pet grooming San Francisco, I searched for Bonamigo, and you show up on page 4 of Google. Something here that's important to recognize is 91.5% of Google searches do not go beyond page 1. And by the time you get to page 3, less than 1% of searches are getting to page 3, right? Like much less than 1%. And so ideally, we want to rank you better to get you to page 1. And I'm a very firm believer that it's very possible for your website because you actually do a good job, which is the major like basis of being able to do this. All right. And if you look at like page 1, you can see some companies here that are done super well, right? Like the dog barber. This is a really good one I looked into because they're showing up like in this like Google Map pack. I do have some advice on how you can do this. Like, I'm not sure why the company you're working with right now has not recommended this to you. This is absolutely basic search engine optimization stuff, which I'll get into next. That's the last bucket of things I'm going to cover. But if you can see, like, Alpha Grooming Pet Salon, mobile grooming services, right? They're ranking really well. They're on page 1. And I think honestly you can get there, right? It's super simple. So we do need some content tweaks, but I don't think that's going to be too difficult. The tool I always recommend from our own expertise running a full agency is Surfer SEO, or sometimes known as SEO Surfer. That's a good one to use. We know how to use it. If you want advice or help there, happy to help, right? Um, all right, so now let's go into like indexing, right? So you've indexed on some keywords, but not the right ones, but that can be changed, right? If you kind of restructure some of these pages to make it very clear on what is this page about, like, for example, instead of saying, welcome to Bonamigo Pet Grooming, you should be saying pet grooming services. And then right under that, you would list San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, et cetera, right? I know you don't service San Jose based on the map, but all the major cities that come in this area. So you're telling Google that, oh, this is a pet groomer that services all these areas, right? Plain and simple, right up very high on the website, all right? Example here, we say, over here we say concrete contractors, Nashville, Tennessee. Super simple, right? You need to put it very high up on the website. It should be one of the first 10 words that shows up on the website in really big font, and it should be bigger font than everything else, right? So if you go and Google Nashville concrete experts, Nashville, Tennessee concrete experts, we show up super high on that because that's what our client wanted to rank for, right? And we are on page 2 for things like concrete contractors in Nashville, Tennessee, which is the major search term, right? And we can get to page 1 easily. We've gotten to page 2 in less than 2 months. So getting to page 1 is not going to be difficult. Okay. So great. So we talked a little bit about indexing keywords because again, Google loves local. So the more local you can make yourself appear, the better. Unfortunately, in this case, nobody's really searching for Marin and Berkeley. Also over here, you'll notice that like this text is actually not index this text. Over here, this shows up like this. So again, you can index it. This does too. So there seems to be some rendering problem here. Okay. Another thing with backlinking and SEO, if I do save image as, over here, this thing is called kappa 1. Actually, what you should be doing is every single image on your website should have a very meaningful name behind it, like dog grooming client San Francisco, or you should say like, a groomed cat picture Oakland or something, right? So if you go to this website and you have the URL, you can go to it, but please avoid putting anything into the form or calling this because this is a client of mine. If you do save image, over here you'll see the description: concrete drive-in, newly built, and then some size number, right? If I go down here to this image and I say save image, it says concrete swale, right? So it's very meaningful keywords over here: concrete countertop, right? And so you want to tell Google like what are these images about, and the search words behind the image is actually what's really important to help Google understand what is this image about. And if it understands what this image is about, it'll help with your Google ranking, right? Automatically, your Google ranking will go up. And you should also geotag all your images. Geotagging is a trick we use to basically help Google understand where were these pictures from. And we always recommend using the same address every single time for all the pictures in terms of geotagging. The website I like using for geotagging is geotaggimgr.com. I think that's what it's called. geoimgr.com, right? Whoever does your SEO, I would suggest you really help make sure they use it. It's a phenomenal tool and it's been around for a really long time and they know exactly what they're doing. We do this all the time and we're kind of experts on this. So if you need advice there, I'm very happy to advise you on it, right, and help you out. Great. So looking at the other criteria, right? Let's now go to this other tool I have called Majestic. Majestic is a tool to figure out how well are you doing in terms of backlinks and citations. Backlinks and citations are very important because it's kind of like how well are other websites actually voting for your website and marking your website as trustworthy to visit. So here's a big problem that I'm seeing with Bonamigo, which is your trust flow is 0, and that's not good. Your citation flow is 26, which is okay, but this means you've gotten 26 votes from other people. This means that those votes are just not counting for too much. So for example, when the New York Times says Bonamigo Pet Grooming area is an extremely trustworthy and reliable website, that counts for a lot, as opposed to some random website out there which is basically linking to you, right? So what we always suggest is this is extremely important, right? I'm going to show you some examples now of other websites. So you can look at like NashvilleConcreteCorp.com, 28 and 31. An easy way to figure out how good is this website doing is calculate what's called the golden ratio. So that's the trust flow divided by the citation flow. Our score is 90%. All right. But your score would be a 0 here, which means that Google is just not willing to trust your website just yet. And again, all this is fixable. Okay. If you look at the New York Times, it's 90 over 80. So they have a trust of over 100%. If you look at other websites like sfdogparlor.com, this is another company that's in this space. They're 11 by 29, not very high, but you can see they actually have fewer referring domains, right? Referring domains is another proxy for how many other websites are linking to you. With only 10 referring domains, they're able to achieve a golden ratio number that's better than yours. So you actually have twice the number of 2.5 times the number of referring domains, but you're not getting that trust flow, right? And I have actually identified the root cause of that for you. Over here, again, we can see VIPdoggroomingsf.com. They're doing super well, right? They've invested a lot of time in building out their citations and their backlinks, and I would recommend doing it too, right? But one of the problems I'm seeing, and this is actually not very good news. If I go down here, this is basically saying like anchor text. Anchor text is essentially what are other websites giving you a reference for? And that really matters to Google, right? Because if other websites are all calling you like essentially, what's it called, a dog trainer, Google is going to think you're a dog trainer. If everybody calls you like best dog grooming and mobile dog grooming and cat grooming service in San Francisco and in Oakland, Google is going to trust you for those things. Over here, unfortunately, the anchor text you're receiving is actually really bad. What I would recommend is tell your SEO person, whoever it is, to remove these immediately because these are actually hurting your website. So PetSmart, right? So Google is now thinking you're associated with PetSmart in some way. And that's actually not good because in this case, what happens is that, like, obviously, I don't think that's true. And obviously, you're not PetSmart. And so these links should be removed. Like, it should actually say something like Bonamigo, right? It should be your company's name. It should be like even your name potentially, right? So it should say something like Juliana Bonamigo, like dog grooming. Over here, dog grooming LA. I'm pretty sure you're not servicing LA. If you are, then that's okay. But you don't do pet supplies. You absolutely do not do van repair. So these anchor texts should really be changed, right? An example of like what better anchor text looks like is if you go down here, maybe there's something good here. Oh yeah, look at this. This is amazing, right? VIP Scrub Club, right? VIP Grooming, Get in Touch, Grooming Services, Lancy Wu. I checked that's the owner's name. Website, right? It's either generic or it's the website or it has something to do with the service that they provide, right? Over here, if you go to Nashville Concrete Corp, you can see it's Canaran, which is one of the co-owners' names, Nashville Concrete Experts, Concrete Construction and Repair Nashville, the website's name. Okay, so this is what it should look like. And this color wheel should actually look very mixed. In your case, it's not looking very mixed. And the anchor texts are not the best ones, right? That's something I would definitely recommend you get checked out. All right. And definitely you need some high value referring domains. So again, you need websites that have a lot of trust flow already, voting for your website so that your website's rank goes up. In this case, it's actually not very high. In general, when we see something like this, we can probably fix it in a couple months, right? So that's how we generally operate. We can fix this in a couple months. And so instead of showing up on page 4 of Google, you'll show up closer to page 1. And the closer we can get you there, the better, right? And most probably, I think just based on what I'm seeing, you can show up on page 1, right? If you do everything right. So great. So that's backlinking and search engine optimization. Let me give the video a quick pause and see if I missed anything. All right, so now I'm going to revisit the absolute last thing that I wanted to show you, which is Google My Business Optimization. What is that exactly? So when I search for pet grooming San Francisco, there's this map pack, right? We call this the map pack, which is these are the top things that top companies in the area for this particular service, right? So 50 to 70% of people who search for these terms will actually call at least one of the companies in this map pack, right? That's absolutely bonkers, right? That means that so many people are calling these companies that they're getting a lion's share of the business. As you can see, this company has not even 2 ratings. They have like basically a 2-star rating and they're still in the map pack, right? So what does that mean? The meaning of this is that somebody on this team has actually understood how to do Google My Business, which I kind of call it GMB. Somebody has understood exactly how to do GMB optimization because it is actually possible to get into the map pack bit without having the highest ratings, without having the highest reviews, without having been in business for the longest time. I'd be willing to bet that if you look at the website for this business, they probably haven't been in business a very long time. Okay, so there is a way to get into this map pack. I think you have a lot of good content in your GMB already to help us get there. It just needs a few other things. Okay, so let me do this. I'm going to do view all, and we're going to look at these recommendations. Okay, so we can see again, SF Mobile Dog Grooming shows up as number 5 here. If you ignore these two kind of ads, it shows up number 3, right? And you can see companies with better ratings like Doggy Day Spa has 4.7 stars, 38 ratings, and they're still showing up below this company. So what the hell, right? The way that this is done is a trick called Google citations. Generally, most companies have less than 30 citations. When we work with a company, we will immediately give you 100 citations on the spot, right? We'll basically get you 100 citations within the first week because you need to basically get Google to realize that you're a legitimate business and your business's NAP, which is name, address, phone number, that triple combo shows up across the web consistently. I know you're in mobile dog grooming and you don't have a physical location, but let me show you something kind of interesting here. If you look at Outlet Pet Mobile Grooming, it's over here. This is, again, in your service area. They're mobile dog grooming, but they have an address. When you have an address, Google is much more likely to trust you. We can get this address set up for you, like, very easily if you'd want us to. Definitely willing to help advise you on how to do that too. But whoever's done your SEO, this is absolutely basic. Like this is an absolute must. You can see Outlet Mobile Dog Pet Grooming shows up on page 1 of their of this Google My Business. Again, SF Mobile Dog Grooming shows up here. It's because they've just done really well in terms of the GMB optimization, and they're beating out people who've been in business for way longer than them. Okay, so we can help you do that. There's a few tricks to this. Having a location is definitely one of those tricks. And once you get your location, you need to take your location, address, and one of your phone numbers. I would recommend use your 415 number. Do not use the 800 number because 415 is a more local area code, which Google likes, and have that map posted on a bunch of different websites, which essentially deal with indexing and citation. It's very important to get your website ranked over here. So I actually went through all these pages for mobile dog grooming. I searched for this is just an example of what it looks like in a highly competitive market. SF is a little less competitive because it doesn't have the population of Chicago, but I actually looked through all the pages of pet grooming San Francisco. I looked through most of these pages. I actually couldn't find Bonamigo, and the reason for that is because when you don't have an address, Google really deprioritizes your account, right? And we can change that. We can change it. No worries. If you want advice on how to do that, I'm happy to help. So yeah, those are some things that I would recommend there. I also looked at your GMB. One of the things I would recommend you do is you actually go into these reviews. Sorry. Whoops. I guess I gave you a like maybe. But what I'd recommend is you go into this and you actually respond to these comments, right? And one of the major things I'd recommend you do is you should respond and say, "Hi, Mara. Thank you for using our dog grooming services in San Jose or in Oakland or in San Francisco." Mention the location where they did business with you, because again, Google will go through the reviews, see what you've responded to these clients as, and say, "Oh, I understand now Bonamigo provides dog grooming services in Oakland, dog grooming services in San Francisco," right? So respond to these comments and say, "Thanks for using our dog grooming services in San Francisco." Okay. We'd be happy to see you again, and we love spending time with your dog. It was super fun, right? Be as organic as possible. Google loves seeing responses to comments, right? We also have strategies to help you get more of these reviews. I can definitely help you out with that, like in the future if you need. But definitely get an address on there. You've got good bones in this GMB to take it to the moon. Okay. Let's see, what else do I want to talk about? Yeah, honestly, it's getting a little late for me, and yeah, I'd love to advise you on these things. I know this is a really long video, but the way our company operates is we go super deep, and I did a lot of prep work before this call because we want to put our best foot forward, and if you'd like, I've given you some pointers. You can implement them. I 110% guarantee that it will make a difference to you. You will absolutely get more calls for business if you do these things. If you need anything else, please reach out to me. You have my phone number. Feel free to call or text me. I have a very good expertise in doing lead generation, search engine optimization, Google My Business optimization focused on local businesses. I have lots of clients across the country, and we only take on clients who we know that we can do a good job for. I think your company is going to do super well, and I'm super excited to see where you go. Worst case scenario, I'm going to bring my dog Celso to you for grooming. I'm going to set up an appointment with you at some point in the next month. So I'll meet you either way. And I live in Soma in San Francisco. All right. Cool. Thank you so much. Take care. Have a good night, Juliana. Let me know if you have any other questions. Thanks.